Sonic the Hedgehog, no matter how many mistakes his games may have made over the years, will always be one of gaming's most beloved icons. Leading Sega confidently into the 90s, Sonic revolutionized gaming in a way that many other franchises could never even dream of. Despite this, it took a very long time to get a Sonic movie made. Efforts were made all the way from 1993 to the late 2010s, until we finally got a Sonic movie in February of 2020, and thankfully, unlike many of the games, it didn't disappoint. It's, in my opinion, the best video game movie we've had up to this point, and it has a sequel less than 3 months away. So I'd say it's about time we talk about Sonic on this channel. In particular, the original version of the movie that we almost got a very long time ago. So what if the Sonic movie had been made in the 90s? Back in the early 90s, Sega would unleash their flagship video game franchise, a franchise that finally allowed them to truly be on par with Nintendo and Super Mario Bros. This franchise, of course, was Sonic the Hedgehog. Prior to Sonic, Sega had been relying on ports of their classic arcade games. However, after Super Mario Bros. 3 was released and quickly rose to be the most successful video game ever at the time, Sega knew that they needed to go in a bold new direction, and in particular, needed an eye-catching mascot to rival Mario. Thus, Sonic the Hedgehog was born, who quickly rose to become one of the biggest icons in gaming history. When Sonic's popularity began to rapidly grow, Sega saw potential in bringing their new baby to the big screen. Video game movies were quickly becoming all the rage in Hollywood after the releases of the Super Mario Bros. Movie and the Street Fighter movie. Neither of these movies were good or successful, but Sega knew that there was profit to be made on a Sonic movie, especially since the Sega Saturn was right around the corner, and they thought a movie would help to market it more. To test the waters, an animated series was created called The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which actually did pretty well. Sega's consumer products director, Michaeline Rinzler, would begin shopping the project around to various American movie studios. Rinzler had a great history in the entertainment industry already, having worked previously at Marvel Comics, Amblin Entertainment, Disney, and Mattel, and she was then brought into Sega in the early 90s, and she successfully brought the Sonic brand up to the billion-dollar icon that he would later become. Eventually, the project was successfully pitched to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and the Trilogy Entertainment Group. Richard Jeffries, another former Marvel Comics employee, was brought in by Rinzler to write a script for the movie, with Penn Densham, who's probably best known for producing Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, being brought in to work as a producer. This version of the movie would be titled Sonic the Hedgehog Wonders of the World, and was meant to be a tie-in to Sonic Extreme, a game which similarly was also cancelled. This version of the story would take place in our world, and would have focused on a 12-year-old named Josh, who idolizes an Air Force pilot nicknamed Sonic due to his attempts at breaking the sound barrier. Josh actually decides to write a paper on for one of his classes in school, however he forgot to actually write the damn paper, and his teacher decides to give him one more day to get it done. However, we soon learn that Josh's home life is really anything but easy. His parents have recently been divorced and are not on good terms with one another. They argue with each other all the time. Now, we also learn that his father works at a computer company, and he's actually invented a brand new type of computer called the XRI, a computer with a mind of its own, aka artificial intelligence. Also, by the way, XRI stands for Extremely Radical Intelligence. Oh, can you tell this movie was going to be made in the 90s? Because I couldn't tell at all. Now, when his father's not around, Josh actually tries to use the computer to write his paper, but when it doesn't do anything, Josh decides to plug a Sega Saturn into it and try playing Sonic Extreme, hoping that the holographic memory on the computer will enhance his gaming experience. However, instead, the computer mistakes his request for a paper on Sonic the Fighter pilot for an actual recreation of Sonic the Hedgehog, which brings Sonic into the real world, digitally recreated by the computer. Eggman would then follow him through the screen, and the rest of the movie would play out as a fish-out-of-water comedy, as Sonic tries to get Aquaman to the real world. Meanwhile, Josh's parents begin into yet another argument after his mother believes that the XRI is too dangerous for their son to be kept around, which is understandable, so she brings him back to her house, where he reunites with Sonic. We learn that Sonic's body is actually deteriorating due to not belonging in the real world, and he needs to find Chaos Emeralds in order to stay alive, which we find out are actually hidden inside of rocks. Eggman, meanwhile, would set up shop in an abandoned amusement park, which he would turn into his secret lair. The park, by the way, would be called Botnik Land, yes, really, and he would later actually form an official company called, and I'm not kidding here, the Shady Corporation, of which Josh's father soon finds himself employed. Eggman actually hired him in order to get his hands on the XRI, which he hopes to use to create the greatest theme park in history, made up of full-scale recreations of all the wonders of the world. This park would be used to lure children into becoming robotic servants to him, fucking creepy. Sonic would then chase him back inside the game, where the final showdown would take place, with Josh also inside the game with them. In the end, Sonic helps Josh return to the real world and remains behind to continue battling with Eggman. Tom Kalinske, the COO of Sega of America, was more than a little concerned about this movie, remembering the way that bad movies like Masters of the Universe could seriously taint a brand. However, he was seemingly in the minority, as the only issue that Sega had with the script was that they didn't think Eggman was a scary enough antagonist, and they also worried that fans would get sick of seeing him. Yeah, really, that's the only thing they thought was wrong with this script. Richard Jefferies would then get back to the drawing board in order to try tweaking the villain. However, out of nowhere, MGM decided to back out of the deal. While the reason why has never been exactly clear, Penn Densham theorized it was likely creative differences. Sega, and in particular Jefferies, who was proud of the script that he wrote, attempted to bring the movie to other studios, with plans of possibly making the movie completely animated instead of live action. Sega in particular really wanted DreamWorks to animate the movie for them, but they just didn't see enough of a profit, seeing as Sega would be getting most of the earnings. Besides, they were more interested in doing movies about original characters, thus the project slowly died for good by 1997. Okay, so now I have to admit, I really don't know what to make of this script. I read on Reddit that a lot of people thought that this was actually a good adaptation, but I have to remind you all that I was born in 2001. I'm not a 90s kid, and from my point of view, this sounds bad, like really bad. Like, I've seen movies like it from the 90s before, like The Last Action Hero, which I know The Last Action Hero is underrated, but it's also not great. And this movie doesn't really sound that much better than that, honestly. I mean, again, I have to reiterate that the main villain organization was going to be called the Shady Corporation, and there was going to be a computer called Extremely Radical Intelligence. I mean, come on, you can't tell me that that doesn't sound a little ridiculous. But then again, maybe I just don't understand. I mean, again, I was born in 2001, so I wasn't a 90s kid. I wasn't around when the Sonic games first started, so maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe it was just because it was a different time that people seem to think it's a good script. But from my point of view, I don't think that this movie sounds good at all. And even if it was good by 90s standards, I really don't think it would hold up well at all. I think that by today's standards, a lot of people would laugh at this movie, even if it was beloved when it first came out. You know, both because I think the CGI would be pretty bad, but also the fact that, you know, it's just so 90s. It's incredibly 90s. It's really goofy. But, you know, as it stands, I do think that the 90s would have been a great time to make a Sonic movie, just because, you know, the games were first starting. It was long before things like Sonic 06 and Sonic Boom started to taint the brand. But overall, I mean, I am happy that we got the Sonic movie we did in 2020. You know, it's not the most perfect movie in the world, but it's, in my opinion, the best video game movie we've gotten up to now. And, you know, I'm really excited for the sequel that's coming out in April. I'm very, very excited for it. The trailer looks great. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's at least as good as the first one, but I'm actually hoping that's even better than the first one. So overall, you know, even though I do think it makes sense to make a Sonic movie in the 90s, it just doesn't sound like the way to do it to me. It just sounds way, way too of its time for me. Not to mention, it's really hard to gauge because, you know, they didn't have any actors in mind. So, like, I don't know if they're going to have the same people voicing the Sonic characters. I don't know who the human characters who would have been played by. I really don't know. So it's really hard to gauge if this would have actually worked or not. I do think that this would probably have at least been better than Super Mario Bros. The movie and probably the Street Fighter movie, but I don't think it would be that good still. I think it would still probably be a bad movie, and if people liked it in the 90s, as I said, I don't think they would like it by today's standards. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of this Sonic Wonders of the World movie. Let me know if you think it would have been good, or if you agree with me and think it probably wouldn't have been very good at all. Also in the comments down below, give me more what-if recommendations, whether that's about Sonic the Hedgehog, Hedgehog, or anything else you can think of, and I will try to get to it. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with all of your friends and all your various social media platforms. And speaking of social media, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Rinzler_Productions, and ring that notification bell to stay updated on all future videos. I upload a brand new video every single day at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I'll see you all tomorrow morning in the next video.